Hey ratbags, it's Jay. Today a super in-depth guide to PALs. I'm going to show you how to tame them, how to level them up, the different abilities that you can get, how to power them with souls, how you can breed them, how to get the saddles or what the saddles are so you can ride some of them, and other perks. I'm going to show you stuff on how to get them to work better and make sure your base has your PALs getting all sorts of resources and crafting for you, as well as keep them happy. So it's a big long video, I've put it all in here. I think this is the ultimate guide to PALs you need to know ahead of launch and in the early days of having the game. Find the video useful, leave a like, check out the rest of the content, and let's go. So on the starting islands, you won't be attacked by any PALs. They're all pretty passive unless you hit them. So there's two major things you need to get PALs and actually manage them, and that's obviously a crafting bench to craft spheres, unless you find some lying around, which you can do, and the PAL box, which you will be able to manage your PALs. The PAL box has missions that you need to complete, and this will get you even more slots for your PALs. Eventually, if you upgrade your box to level 10, you'll be given another box to place and essentially have a second base somewhere. So you'll only have one slot for one PAL in the beginning stages, then 2, then 3, then 4, gaining more slots all the way every time you upgrade your box. The left hand side box is for your party. They're the PALs that you're going to take with you as your companion. You can only have one active PAL at a time, but you can cycle through the 5 PALs that you have in your party, and you can choose them whenever you want to help you out. Some of them will be mounts, some of them will help you in combat, others will give you passive bonuses while you're gathering resources while you're exploring. The middle box is all the PALs that you've collected. You can collect literally hundreds of these PALs. I think the max limit was something like 400 and something. So don't worry about having not enough space or anything when you're capturing it. If you see 30 PALs that you really want and you've got the spheres, go ahead and grab them all. You're not going to be over encumbered until you get that 400 plus limit. Then the bottom box underneath that is where your PALs are going to be at your base. So within this area, you put the PALs into this box and they'll go around your base doing exactly what they're meant to be doing. Or if you want them to gather resources, you can set them on crafting benches and stuff. So above the PALs, you'd always see what element they are and what level and health pool they've got. Hit them until they get really low, then throw your sphere, and that's how you capture them. If they're higher level, you may need more powerful spheres to go ahead and capture them, although there is always an outside chance you might be able to get one. If you actually aim your sphere without throwing it at a PAL, it will give you a rough score percentage of whether or not you will be able to capture it. Generally, you want anything above 70% to have that chance, and then it might be guaranteed, but obviously 100% is always better. Unless you're playing on hard mode, your PALs will not die. They'll get knocked out, and then you just simply have to put them back in the box for 10 minutes and they'll revive. So once you complete the missions and upgraded your PAL box, you should have something like this once you start getting lots and lots of PALs. Definitely something you should pay attention to is the elements board. It's inside the tutorial section. You find it in the pause menu, basically in the survival guide. As you might expect from a creature taming game like this, lots of PALs have weaknesses against certain elements. Obviously, fire PALs are going to be weak against water. Grass PALs are going to be weak against fire. You get the idea. PAL spheres, obviously you'll be able to get a hold of a bunch of these blue ones you can craft, or you'll find them scattered around the ground. You can also find the mega spheres as well, and as you keep exploring you might get across even the biggest and best ones. You'll see the capture power here is level 7, so that should mean anything under level 7, it should be relatively easy to get as long as you've hit it quite a bit and got it low. And likewise, mega spheres, if you use these, they'll be a lot easier to get, and you can capture PALs up to maybe level 14. You'll be able to craft the basic sphere at any workbench, but eventually you'll get a special sphere bench where you can craft the more advanced spheres. And there's like 6 different versions of this that go up to massive levels, so you can get them really hard, high level creatures. The trick with taming them is absolutely try and get them to their lowest point of health. It's simply as easy as that. If it really isn't working, you are just going to need a better sphere. Although there are these strange little green statues you can collect called effigies, and you'll be able to go ahead and increase your capture level. These are scattered all across the land, they don't respawn, so when you find one, make sure you get it. And be able to place a special statue down where you'll be able to go ahead and increase your capture level. And this should help also get in some of the tames. If you go through the technology tree, you will find traps that you can use. Basically, these will capture smaller PALs, and then you'll get much larger traps that will be able to help you with different or higher level ones. I found them kind of weak sauce. Obviously, if you place a lot of them down, the chances are you might capture 1 or 2, but it wasn't too much of an issue getting some of the smaller ones anyway. When they are in the traps, you still have to hit them a few times to get them low, otherwise the chances are they will be able to break out of the sphere, and once they've been caught and that trap has been used, it will break. As you get more powerful, you won't even really need to go ahead and wail or beat up on some of the small lower ones like chickpeas. You'll be able to tame them relatively easily. Once you've captured the first one, it will show you on the map where you can find lots more. If it says doesn't seem to be active at this time, it could be because it's a rare actual PAL. When it says habitat unknown, that normally means it's a cave. PALs have a chance of dropping resources when you kill them, so check the PAL deck to see, once you've captured one, what it's going to give you if you did went and killed a bunch more. You might need a specific resource from these PALs to really make your crafting benches or get armor and stuff. So let's talk about PALs' jobs. Some PALs are good at gathering wood, some at mining, some at cooking. So Vixies here, they'll always be the same. They're going to be good for gathering resources and farming, whereas T-Fant is only good for watering. The one thing to say is that certain creatures you assume will just do the farming and do everything. They won't. They'll plant seeds, they'll go ahead and harvest, but they're not going to go ahead and water. So if you have got a creature that says it's going to be doing farming, you're still going to need a creature that does watering in your actual base so that they can grow crops without you having to do anything. So you can get PALs to go ahead and cook meals for you on a campfire, the oven, or the same fire PALs. They should be able to go ahead and smelt stuff in the furnaces. If you want a PAL to kind of stick to that one thing and craft a lot of items, sometimes you're going to have to pick them up. You simply just go over to it, press the X button to pick them up, and then press the X button again to throw. His fixed assignment now is this, and then you can go ahead and choose what it is you want to actually be making. Some of the PALs can be a bit finicky, and as I said, if they become unhappy or they're overworked, they might stop and you'll have to reset, grab them and put them back on. Other PALs I noticed whenever I was trying to use the lumberyard or the masonry, they would do it for a little while, stop, and then maybe sometimes not return. If that happens to you, you can go ahead and leave, or check that actually you've got a PAL that's actually really suitable. Cativas can go ahead and mine, but if you look at the rest of what they can do, they're also gatherers, they're going to do handiwork and transporting. So it means it will kind of blend, it will take a bit of rocks or help you mine, but then it's going to carry that rocks over to your actual boxes, and if anything else appears where it's going to be building, then it'll also go and do that too. So what you're really looking for is dedicated miners that maybe only have that one job, like rush bores. And there you go, he's doing a much faster, better job, and he should pretty much stick at that now until he gets tired and wants a break. One thing I have been having more trouble with is sometimes when you're going to craft stuff, you'll get help if anyone does do handiwork, and other times it might take a while, even if you've got lots of the actual PALs that do that job. Some stuff they just don't seem to want to come over and help do. I think occasionally they do get kind of sidetracked. So Daedry here should be doing handiwork pretty easily, so you might want to just go and grab one if they've got a handiwork sign and throw it at the actual crafting bench. You can also help it speed it up as well, and that was only like a kind of a little bug I found with some of these PALs and their jobs. To feed PALs, you're going to be okay with berries to start with, but eventually you might have to start making more advanced foods to keep them happy and their SAN levels high. You can manually feed PALs that are in your party just by clicking on the food and choosing what PAL to use it on. If they seem a bit slow or not interested in eating as much, you can do that to keep them happy. Obviously you'll be putting your PALs to work. Chickens and lambs at the ranch will drop you eggs and wool. And then eventually you will be able to unlock the factories. But you're going to need a ton of ingot for this to go ahead and craft lots of things at bulk. You'll upgrade beds as well to get even better ones that will give them more comfort. But it's not simply just saying comfort, it's something called workload. You can see it's highlighted in orange, 500 workload. So everything you do, everything your PALs do I should say at your base, increases the workload. Whether it's smelting, whether it's farming, whether it's go ahead and mining. It's not that easy to keep track of. It doesn't seem to be any kind of monitor other than you just manually going around and checking. But you basically want to have lots of their beds and them items that I mentioned earlier, like the springs, to try and keep their SAN up. Obviously, there is ways you can make your PALs work harder. You'll get this little altar and you can basically increase the workload that they do. But effectively, take a rough look at what you're asking them to do, how many crafting benches you got, how much workload it says it will use, and then you can work out how many of the beds and stuff. If you keep seeing your pals saying they're slacking off or they're not going to work, they're upset, you definitely need to put more saunas down or the springs. The more you craft and make, you can see it increases the workload. So honestly, I don't think this is an issue in the early game, but once you start unlocking the factories and more automation where you're getting the pals to sit there and just make stuff, I think that's when it becomes more of an issue, and you've got to really check and make sure you're keeping them happy. Pals in your party you can feed manually. Pals in your base, they should be eaten from the box. The ones in your inventory though, they do need to be fed occasionally. Or instead you can craft a viewing cage. This unlocks at level 15 and you can fill it with your pals. They'll no longer get hungry, so you won't have to worry about feeding them. Also, if they are getting hungry a lot, try placing maybe 2, 3 or 4 actual feeders down, as these also contribute to your feed box. It might be a reason why some of your pals are going low on food. But yeah, you can use this and just place a bunch of them inside. Mentioned it earlier, but once you get your first pal box up to level 10, you'll be able to go and place another one. It has to be far away enough from your original, so it's a good idea to go ahead and find somewhere else. I've gone and put mine in a pretty horrible looking place, but it's super flat here in the swamps. This is where I'm going to start setting up my more advanced factories. I might even decide to build a huge base here, who knows. But it does mean you can have more workers. You don't need to upgrade it again. If you have a second PAL box, it'll have empty spaces for you to fill up, so you can get even more pals working and doing stuff. Right, let's move on to the actual PAL stats and how you can level them up and make them OP. So your pals have things called partner skills, they'll have active skills, and then they've got passive skills. The partner skill will remain the same for every type of pal, so no matter how many land balls you get, they're all going to always have the fluffy shield as their partner skill. When activated, equips to the player and becomes a shield, sometimes drops wall when assigned to ranch. So that never really changes. Some of the standout ones that I reckon you want to get hold of early are things like logging assistance from Gumos. While in team, improves efficiency of cutting trees, so you don't even need to have him equipped. As long as he's actually in your team, you'll get more wood, or at least quicker anyway. And Elk Deer here, he also has something where you can gain bonuses from basically chopping down trees. So their passive skills, the majority of the pals actually have active ones where you have to press a button to summon them or you can ride them, and that's Elk's second primary ability. He can be ridden once you put a saddle on him. But be warned, some of these partner skills only work once you've equipped them with their saddle or a trinket. So for example here, Fox Sparks, his partner skill is Huggy Fire, where you can literally use one as a flamethrower. You'll have to craft his harness, which requires flame organs, palladium and leather. And yeah, it can be really useful as an offensive weapon. So he'll run to you and then you can literally go ahead and start firing. Pretty cool. What you'll notice is in the technology tree though, you won't obviously realise what some of their saddles or their trinkets can do until you obviously unlock and capture some of these pals. Some really good actual accessories for your pals are things like gloves for Celery, which you can use as a glider. They tend to be better than the parachutes that you get in the early game. But nearly all of the saddles to ride your pals require ore that you're going to need to smelt down. There's a fair few creatures that you can use as mounts, including obviously flying ones. And some are definitely a bit faster than others, but I'll be saving that for another video, talking about all the different mounted creatures and which ones are best. So that's what the partner skill is. Some will be locked until you equip an item to them, others you'll get straight away as they'll be unlocked at level 1 as soon as you've got them. Then you've got active skills, and these are the things that if you keep leveling up your pet, they'll unlock and gain new skills. So this little Vixie here has only got an air cannon, but other creatures like Nightwing have got 3 different active skill attacks. The fastest way to unlock active skills is by taking them out with you in a party. They gain much more experience than you do leaving them at a base. So it's a good idea to focus on the ones you want to really level up, knowing that you're going to get some more active skills. But that's not all. You can swap their active skills also. So my Pen King here has got 3 different skills, 2 ice based and 1 water based, and they're all pretty much offensive abilities. But I could change the Christ Breath here and instead I could put iceberg or aqua gun. And even when you're riding a creature, you will be able to go ahead and use them same abilities, just like this one, and sandblast too. And why not the stone blast as well. So you will unlock these over time, keep leveling them up, getting into combat, gathering resources, defeating bosses, pretty simple stuff. But there is even more you can do. You'll come across these fruits. They're usually hanging from a tree like this. Maybe now and then you might find a random one on the floor, and these will pretty much give a special ability, and you can really mix and match some of your abilities as well. So here I guess it's important to make sure you're using the right ability for a creature you will be taking out a lot. I'm about to get a saddle for Nightwing. It's my first flying mount that I have, and I know that his attacks, I'm not that keen on some of them. He's already got 3 attacks, but if we go ahead and use some of these, you just simply click on the fruit, use, and then choose the power that you want to use it on. Then you can simply swap out whatever attack it is for the one that you've just got. I'm going to use Spinevine here, and I've now given him a bit of a earth or ground power, generating spiny thorns that chase an enemy along the ground, piercing them from below. Then on top of that, you can go ahead and use souls from pals. You'll find these usually on the floor, or they might come as a reward or in chests. And then you've got to use these statues. You can find them scattered around the world, or you can place one. It's level 6, so fairly early. This is also how you increase your capture level, like I mentioned earlier. Each level that you gain, it'll increase the next level how many of them green effigies you need to collect. I've already done a guide on the first Windswept Hills area, where you can pick up at least 3 or 4 of these and gain a couple of levels pretty early. You can see it's got a maximum there of 10. At the moment that seems to be the max level that you can get for capturing. Or you can go ahead and enhance them. These will give a quick boost to some of your pals. So at the moment I've got 400 attack, 392 defense and 70 work speed for penking. You can then choose to go ahead and use your blue souls here to level up whatever one you want. HP, attack, defense or work speed. Now I've got 412 attack. And you can see the next level is going to require 2 and so forth and so on. Once you get to level 4, then it begins using the purple souls. So you find more of the purple ones in purple chests, the blue ones in blue chests, and yeah, the blue ones are meant to be small souls, the purple ones medium, and then the yellow ones large. And it's the same deal, you can increase its attack score. And then once you get up to level 7, after that you are going to need some of the gold souls or yellow souls. These are large souls, and yeah, they've got a more rare chance of dropping from looting certain chests, and as far as I could tell you could get them even from purple chests or lower. So I've used up quite a lot of my souls, and they're the ones that I've been saving. I've not done this before until this video, and it's already taken me a huge amount just to get one of my pals to increase just one of its baseline scores. So think carefully about, again, the pals that you're going to keep with you, your favourite ones, and hopefully increase their score. It does look like you can also reset what pals souls you use as well. It's got a reset button and it costs some gold coins to do so. I guess that's because the chests don't actually respawn, so apart from finding some on the floor or maybe by defeating or gaining access to higher dungeons, you will eventually run out. And then lastly, you've got passive skills. Now these can be a real mixed bag. This Land Ball and this Fox Sparks both have Conceited as their passive skill, which gives them an increase of work speed by 10%, but a defense score of minus 10%. Some creatures don't have any passive skills, and some actually have up to 4, so it does seem pretty random how or what they might have, and some of these skills have different levels too. So Fox Sparks here as well, it's got work speed 30%, attack speed 30% minus. It's worth paying a bit of attention to this. Don't just gloss over because it's such a big amount of different numbers and skills. By fine tuning it, you can get a really good balance of getting the best pals to be doing the best work for you back at your base, and the pals that will come with you on adventures. Passive skills aren't always bonuses though. This pacifist score can give you attack of minus 20%. And occasionally you'll come across some pals with these yellow passive skills, and they're basically much better versions, or really maybe a bit more rare and special. Like this Workaholic, where it's San, its happiness level drops 15% lower. The lower their SAN, the more chance they're going to turn around and say they're upset, they're not going to work, or they might start overeating. The game obviously teaches you this by making sure they've got plenty of beds and somewhere to go and chill like a hot spring. Is a good way to make sure they're happy at base. These definitely feel a bit more generic and apply just randomly to all different types of PALs. So it's definitely worth looking at these to see if you're going to breed them and whether or not they'll carry over to your next PALs. Another way that you can make your PAL stronger, you can sacrifice other PALs to make one better with its main stats. Much later you get this, the PAL condencer. This boar has got a star on it, and that's because I sacrificed the rest of them to make him stronger. And you can do this again. So you go ahead and choose the boar that you want, or the PAL, and it will increase their max HP, their attack, their defense, and make their actual partner skill much better. Once you've chosen what one you want, you then go ahead and sacrifice more. After you've done it once though, the amount that you need will increase. So the first time I did it, it only needed 4, but now you can see that's jumped up to 16. So I've got a alpaca here that's level 37, but it doesn't have any passive skills. I've got one that's level 34, and it's got the conceited skill, which means it'll be a better worker. It'll only take a short while of making sure I've got this alpaca with me in a party, and I'll be able to level it up anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice the other 4. So you'll see I'm boosting their stats quite a lot, including its partner skill. You can't use a random mix of PALs either, it has to be the same breed or kind. So you're better off actually having that pretty close to your PAL box. That way you can check things a lot quicker. This guy is going to increase my player speed by 25% of its passive skill, so I'm going to probably sacrifice the rest of them. Or I could go for this guy with Serious, which will give me 20% extra work speed. Let's go with the work speed. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. Now here's the crucial bit with the condenser. You won't be able to get it until you defeated either the main boss that the tutorial guides you to. I'm not going to spoil it more than that in this guide, but that's enough of a hint. Follow the tutorial all the way through and it will tell you exactly where to go, or at least what boss you'll be fighting. When you do, you'll be rewarded with a ton of ancient technology points. Otherwise, you can find some of the bigger special alpha actual PALs in the world, and they will, for the first time you kill them at least anyway, drop 1 ancient point. I've killed these a bunch of times. The first time it definitely gave me some ancient points. The second time, no. It just gave me some drops, loot, and obviously lots of experience. You can find these roaming around the world. When they're really lower level than you, they'll have one of the big red horn devil signs next to them, indicating that maybe you shouldn't be messing with these. But obviously now that I'm nearly level 42, it's not giving me that same. But obviously they are alpha versions. Otherwise you'll also usually always find some sort of alpha variant inside caves. And you can capture these, but you may need special more advanced spheres or to be much higher level. Now I'm pretty sure the first time that I killed one again inside a cave, I definitely got more of the ancient points. But the second time, I didn't. Now this is a special one. My timing couldn't have been better, as this is a shiny PAL. You'll sometimes get larger versions of the smaller ones or bigger versions, and these have basically got better stats. But they are obviously maybe tougher to actually get, and yes, you don't want to kill them like my stupid PALs did here. They're pretty rare. I think I've only come across maybe 2, maybe 3 in nearly 20 hours of playing. You'll hear a little tinkle, a little sound, so when you do hear that, look around and make sure you go and try and get one of them. Right, back to the condenser and how to unlock it. So you have to be at the right level also to unlock it. It's level 14. It's going to cost a bunch of resources. And again, them civilization parts you'll actually get from killing alphas and some of the bosses. But you won't be able to get that either until you've also unlocked the egg incubator. It's considered part of a set. You'll see when you look at it, it says part 2 or part 1 on the bottom right. And that's the idea behind it. So the egg incubator is literally what you can use your eggs that you've been finding all around the world. Just put one in. And then you just hold and incubate the egg. It may take you longer depending on your settings. These eggs can be some of your best chances of getting unique subspecies of eggs or creatures or just more rarer ones. So when you do get your ancient points, absolutely focus on getting the egg incubator first, which you need to be level 7. And I personally would ignore the grapple gun and the small feed bag and try and get hold of the essence condenser instead. Last thing to mention about the PALs is of course that you will also need a breeding farm. You unlock the breeding farm at level 19. The breeding farm requires cake, and this cake is what you use to go ahead and create your new PALs. But to make the cake, you're going to need cooking pot. So you get the cooking pot at level 17 and then the breeding farm at level 19. I would actually avoid unlocking them, not wasting your points until you're able to make sure you get honey. Everything else you can pretty much get from a trader or PALs. You'll be able to find seeds, the milk, even eggs from a trader that you find in a settlement towards the south of the map. If you go ahead and die and respawn, you'll be able to see the spawn points at the south that I'm talking about. There's a trader at a settlement there, and a trader does come visit you occasionally as well. Flour you will have to grow in a crop plot and get a grinder to make and stuff, but it is doable. What's not doable is honey. Honey seems to only drop from one particular enemy, and that's this bee type, and it can only be found, so far found, in the east of the map, the northeast. This is a crazy dangerous zone. It's got some really tough PALs in it. You're swamped by NPC bandits and enemies all the time. Pretty much everything here wants to kill you. You more than likely won't be able to tame any of these until you get the much better spheres. And yes, so you're going to have to kill the bees to get the honey. Maybe there are some of these bees in other biomes, but I've explored quite extensively the south towards the centre and fair bit of the north. And I actually needed help from people in stream to guide me to where I might find these guys. Maybe there's other settlements that I haven't come across yet that might sell them, but either way, honey is really tough to get hold of. You'll more than likely also need some sort of flying creature or the grapple that you might have got with ancient points, or maybe even a seafaring creature to get across the river and the oceans, as a lot of it does separate this landmass. I'm totally going to do a separate video on this in more depth though, so don't panic. So you've managed to get honey, you've got all the other ingredients, be careful they all spoil, so you have to make sure you've got a cooler box or make it very quickly. Then you go to your cook pot and you can go ahead and make the cake. The cake takes a huge amount of time to make. You are going to need a full-time, one of your best cooks to definitely try and get hold of the RSOCs, as they've usually got level 2 in cooking. Absolutely make sure you've got these being made, and like I said, you can store the rest of them in a cold storage. And so then with your breeding pen, you basically pick up the PAL that you want from the ones that are running around your base, and you go and chuck them inside the pen. One has to be male, one has to be female, you get the idea. If you put 2 of the same PAL species, they'll effectively give birth to a same PAL, but it'll be slightly stronger in terms of its baseline stats and may have maybe more chance of getting some really good passive perks. You then go ahead and put the cake inside the chest, that's part of the breeding, and once it's got all the way through, that's when it'll go ahead and you'll find an egg waiting there for you to pick up. It will be a level 1, but again, don't panic. As soon as you do something like go and take on a few enemies, it will quickly level up and it syncs pretty much with a lot of other creatures. You go ahead and hatch it inside the incubation, and you've got yourself a much stronger, better version of the parent creatures that you just had. But what about crossbreeding? It's a little more complicated. The idea is that you can just throw any 2 creatures here and you may come up with a variant. But if you run around the PALWORLD enough, you will come across the variants that actually can be made. There's a lot of frost versions of some of the creatures that you come across, like the mama elephant one, and then you've got the malcats, you've got frost versions of them. I streamed this extensively, testing and trying to do the best I could, but it does look like if you haven't got the right combination of creatures, the ones that are already variants in the world, instead of giving you maybe half of this dinosaur and half of this bee queen, it will just give you a rare maybe PAL. I got this large rock egg, and another time I did it, I just got an uncommon egg. When I went and hatched it, I got Anubis, which is definitely not a variation of that dinosaur nor the bee queen. So there is quite a lot of experimentation. It's going to take a long time for everyone to basically breed all the variations that the game actually has in the game. And I've got to say, it's pretty confusing. It doesn't have any kind of markers or any tutorial to really show you the variations. Effectively, you've just got to find them out in the world first. They basically put the names of 2 of the creatures together, and that's your hint about what creatures to put in the breeding pen together. But you can't grumble about getting a rare or really powerful PAL, and that's what I kept getting as well. So even if it's the wrong combination, you should get some sort of reward. But you definitely want to be saving your cakes for the most powerful creatures, or maybe the later game ones, rather than using them to get like maybe a chicken cat breed. But you can see here Masanda mixed with some sort of lightning creature, and that's definitely going to give me this variant. I'm working really hard to get you as many of the PALs discovered as possible to do the ultimate video, but that will be coming separately. But hopefully this gives you enough tips. And there you go, a huge video, but I feel like I wanted to get everything you need to know. And obviously you'll be watching this before the game releases, or even after. I still think it's a great guide for introducing you to PALs, even if I do say so myself. Look out for smaller, more individual ones covering a lot of these topics, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you've got notifications bell dinged. And if you want to see me carrying on playing Palworld, then please leave a like, absolutely, because there's lots of games coming out at the moment, and unless I see lots of views and lots of comments on these types of videos, I don't know if I'm going to be doing as much content on Palworld as something like Enshrouded, which is also coming out. Anyway, there you go. Until next time, ratbags, laters.